I'm joined by Rebecca Gardner today, the founder and creative director of Houses and Parties, a full-service events, interior design, and retail collective with roots in Savannah and New York. Her work has been celebrated everywhere from Vogue and Harper's Bazaar, where she's been named a top event designer, to Architectural Digest, the Financial Times, the Wall Street Journal, Town and Country. And what sets Rebecca apart isn't just her accolades, but the unmistakable joy and imagination she brings to everything she touches. Entertaining season is upon us, and so Rebecca and I talk all about the art of entertaining, why gatherings are really about pleasure, how your food and your flowers are telling a story, the way she infuses humor and heart into her designs. This is really a conversation of beauty and inspiration, and I cannot wait for you to hear it. Welcome to Grandma's Silver, where tradition meets today. I'm Allie, your host of the Grandma's Silver podcast and founder of the Grand Millennial Lifestyle. Here, we blend aesthetics with nostalgia, engaging in conversations with lifestyle brands, designers, and more to rediscover the timeless charm of the past. Join me as we journey from home to heart, illuminating the past and polishing the present with the gleam of Grandma's Silver. Well, Rebecca, thanks for joining me today. I'm really excited to chat. There's a lot we can cover. One very exciting project coming up, which we'll obviously talk about. But could we start by having you just introduce yourself, tell people who you are, what you do, and we'll go from there.
Sure. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you, Allie. This is a real treat. I love anything Grand Millennial, especially you. I grew up in South Texas, and I am an event designer, an interior designer, and I have an online shop, and my business is called Houses and Parties. So really, it's like being a designer, a fireman, a live theater director. I'm chief cook and bottle washer of my company that makes little worlds.
I love it. Can we start by talking a little bit more about how you got into, I don't even know which one came first, right? Because I know they all connect,
Sure.
but which one started it all, got the ball rolling, and what was your background? What made you go into it? Let's get into that a little bit.
I grew up in South Texas in a little town on the Gulf Coast, which is a very particular place to be from. My family is from the Mississippi Delta, and these are two places that are known for great music and good food, but they are places where you have to make your own fun.
Mm.
So I'm very accustomed to planning parties and have been planning parties, in particular, like my birthday parties as a child, my entire life. So this is very much my love language, but also part of my DNA. I studied English and history at the University of Mississippi, affectionately called Ole Miss in Oxford. My grandmother used to love to tell people that I was studying in Oxford, but it was Oxford, Mississippi. And then I studied art history at SCAD in Savannah, Georgia, and I absolutely fell in love with this beautiful historic city, and it's been my home ever since. And I now live between Savannah, Georgia, and Greenwich Village in New York City. And my business is called Houses and Parties, which is really a three-ring circus. We do event design, interior design, and we have an online shop which specializes in selling things that are unique to us, mostly unnecessaries for creating memorable occasions.
My background academically is historical archaeology and anthropology, but
Whoa.
then I went in and I loved art history, and then I had an event, mostly a wedding planning business after that.
Really?
Yeah, which I have since closed. That's a long story. That's funny that we had similar
Well,
backgrounds.
I don't know. I mean, archaeology and anthropology, I think you're miles ahead
Oh, well.
of art history. You had like really serious glasses on, but the event planning takes a certain kind of insane person.
It does.
So we're bonded by that insanity.
Yeah, I used to laugh. I used to call myself Indiana J-Lo. Um,
Yeah, that's good.
because I was
Yeah.
like the event planning archaeologist.
They imagined
Um,
the outfit immediately.
yeah, they got it. Once I said it, they're like, okay, we can get there. I don't know if they've been at the same, like if you've been doing both at the same time, but you do a little bit of interiors as well as the event design. Like, did those develop simultaneously?
Well, I started my business, I started Houses and Parties in 2011. It focused on interior design and event design. During COVID, there was no interior design or event design, especially in New York City. And so I opened this online component of my business, which is also Houses and Parties. Sell everything from like Hermes china to bespoke party hats to custom party crackers. Most of what we sell, we make and is exclusive to our shop, which is a goal of mine and kind of fun because it builds upon my experience working at SCAD for almost 10 years, which is the Savannah College of Art and Design, and working with artists, to make things. That is really, really a joy.
So it sounds like for the most part, yes. And then the shop developed later.
Right.
Yeah,
It was something that I had thought about doing for years, Allie. I mean, like probably 10 years as long as I had my own business. And so I had a giant set of file folders with old-fashioned tear sheets, some of which were, 15 years old. When really everything came to a halt, I had built this incredible team of people that are still with me that I'm so appreciative for. And we had to do something. And so this is what we did.
I love
But
it.
we were ready. We had thought about it for a long time.
The shop is so fun. I've gone on there and perused, and it's just like the most whimsical blend and we'll talk about that a little bit more later, but yeah, I love it. It's so much fun.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, I do want to, before I kind of like segue off of some of that, I wanted to talk a little bit more about atmosphere because
Okay.
both houses and parties, you are designing and creating atmosphere. So, what does that mean to you? And like why is it important to you? And also maybe what's your approach? Because similar but different in how you're creating a home versus the temporary space of an event.
I named my business Houses and Parties because I truly believe that if you're going to spend so much love and time and effort and money, which are all really the same thing when rolled together, on your house, you should share it with the people that you love or the people you want to love or the friends of the people you love, whatever. And
Hmm.
so a house should be a party. And at the same time, a party should feel very welcoming and represent the hostess, just like, an interior should represent the homeowner. So I feel like those two things are equal pursuits, in the same recipe. And creating environment for a party is really not that much different than designing a room. I like for the events that I throw for myself or the events that I throw for a client which are, similar in pursuit. Obviously, I like for events that I throw for a client to represent their personality and their priorities, and that's a mark of success. But I always want to create an immersive environment, just like a living room or a dining room or a bar or whatever it is. And so we think about what's on the floor. Is it October and you want to crunch of fall leaves underfoot? Or are you in Round Top, Texas, and you want 18 inches of sawdust from the nearby barrel ring, And then what's on the ceiling? I think if you're in a tent, which so often you are for a big party or a big ballroom, heaven forbid, in some carpeted hotel room, you definitely want to cover the floor there. But you want to bring the ceiling down so that it feels cozy and yummy. And so I love hanging lanterns and I love garland and I think lighting is so important. This might be because I'm 5'2", but I like things to be low. It has to do with exaggeration,
Yeah.
which I think is important. Fantasy and exaggeration are important when you're creating any sort of world. Who wants reality? Reality is for a hospital. Reality is for the IRS building. Reality is where you go and pay your water bill. I think anything else that you're creating should have fantasy and exaggeration. So if I'm going to have branches zip tied to the ceiling of a tent, I want vines hanging low that guests have to pull back and interact with. I want getting to dinner to be a destination, and I want a little world for cocktails, and I want a little world for dinner, and then I want a drum roll, drop the curtain, bam, get up off of that thing. It's time to dance.
Hmm.
So when you're in someone's house, the foyer plays a part. And the living room is the grand opening and the gesture where people gather. There might be a sexy bar that's a surprise. People often use their powder rooms for the wildest wallpaper that no one let you put anywhere else. And that feels like a little jewel box. So I see designing little worlds for, the same, the process or the dream is the same for a big event or for a house.
What does, I don't know if nostalgia is the word to use, but because you have an appreciation of history to whatever degree that looks like, right? Through art, through culture, does that play any kind of role in like your creative approach? Or are you more so leaning on your, like, are you leaning on your clients for that?
Well, I would say that my brand in my e-com shop, Houses and Parties, I would definitely say it's nostalgic. And
Hmm.
that is because that's my party. I am my own client on
Yeah.
housesandparties.com. And I like a retro palette, which I call dirty pastels. And I like music from the 60s. And I like pink Cadillacs from the 50s and I like Fellini films. I think retro food is fun to look at, maybe not to eat. The nostalgia that you feel associated with houses and parties is because of housesandparties.com, which is my party. When I'm
Hmm.
designing for a client, I go into I inhabit their world and design accordingly. But I do believe that when you're entertaining people, that there's some really basic benchmarks and there are things that people expect, especially for a wedding. I mean, you expect a ceremony, a cocktail hour to be fed and then to have dancing. And you don't want to shake that up too much. If you have a dinner party, you want people to have a place to put their purse and a place where they can sit and they speak to the person to the right, to the left, across from them. I think that those sorts of things make people feel comfortable.
Hmm.
And so I like to take the confines of the expected and then, add twists and surprises and elements of excitement and frivolity and danger and, whatever. But I do think that, like, as far as being nostalgic or old fashioned or traditional, that part is really all about the comfort of guests. I mean,
Hmm.
another thing that's sort of old fashioned or traditional, maybe nostalgic that I encourage clients when planning a party is food and not using a big event. Normally, if you're hiring me, it's because, you're having a big party and not a dinner party for six. So I would love to be hired to do that. But this is not a moment to be cuisine and have pea foam on Chilean sea bass or complicated canapes. When you're entertaining 100 or more people, you want to serve them things that they know what it is, that taste delicious, because it doesn't matter if the fanciest New York City chef is catering your party for over 100 people. It's never going to taste as good or look as good as if that chef is serving in his restaurant. You're
Hmm.
in a temporary catering kitchen, you have temporary staff that you've hired to fill in. It's just not the place to put microgreens with tweezers on top of, you know what I mean? Like a
Yep.
potato mousse. So, this is a politician's answer for saying, yeah, I guess I am nostalgic. The pink Cadillacs and the cat eye glasses is what I love, and that's reflected in my shop when I'm designing events for clients. I guess that I've never thought of this. I feel like I'm at the psychologist, psychiatrist, whatever, therapist. I think it comes through because you don't, I mean, you'll look at my book and you'll think, I hope, God, I hope you think that's wild or that's weird or that's a twist or that's crazy, but it's all within the confines of keeping guests comfortable.
Something that I really appreciate that you do is sometimes when people throw out words like whimsical, mischievous, sometimes even fun, colorful, it conjures up tacky. And we're like, oh, I don't know. Like, I like sophisticated. What I think you do so well is show that you can have a beautiful, sophisticated event that still has, I think you even used the word twist, like it has a twist. It still has those elements.
You are my therapist. I am really not interested in impressing people.
Yeah.
I am interested in entertaining people. Diana Vreeland has a quote about, I'm looking at it right now. She said, "A little bad taste is like a nice splash of paprika. We all need a splash of bad taste. It's hearty, it's healthy, it's physical. I think we could use more of it. It's no taste is what I'm against." I encourage my clients to embrace the opportunity to go big, to delight and entertain, and not be worried about impressing. Because if you make impressing your priority, your party is already a fail. I want guests to walk into a party that I've designed and squeeze their date's hand and say, "Oh my gosh, we are going to have the best time. This
Yeah.
is totally wild. Who would have thought of this? Insert name of client, party host is so fun. I'm so glad to be included. What I don't want is them to take a step back and pull out their camera and take a photo of a floral arch and say, God, they must have spent a fortune on all these roses. So I hope that, even if a client is not a loud Texan like I am, I encourage them to choose things that are fun and delicious and comfortable and surprising and delightful and represent what's important to
Yeah.
them. It's different for everybody.
Well, I feel like this is a good segue to your very exciting project because I know that some of this has been captured for a book and that there is hopefully some inspiration for folks in there. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Of course, of course. I wrote a book which will launch. It was published by Rizzoli, and designed by this amazing book designer, Celia Fuller. It includes about 20 parties, most of which have never been published or put on Instagram, which is kind of fun.
That's so
I've been
fun.
hoarding them in a digital drawer for years. It is full of new and vintage Brunswick and Fee and Lee Joffa fabrics, like as part of the graphic design.
Oh my
It
gosh.
has three streamers trailing off of the spine. It's a little party in itself. It has a foreword by Sophia Coppola, which I'm so proud of. And it is sort of the heart of my entertaining ethos, which is, beautiful and colorful, and I hope exciting. And it's full of tips and treasures, including like a comprehensive library of resources with all of my resources and vendors, which I'm so excited to share with the world.
Amazing. Now, what was that behind the scenes process like of, or maybe if you want to like talk us through what each, like, sharing each of those events kind of looks like in the scheme of the layout of the book?
I did not want to do a DIY book. I am not a DIYer and I'm not interested in that. I can cook and I can do flowers and I can plan a party and I can iron a tablecloth, but so can everyone else. That's not what this book is about. It's about sort of unabashed ideas, resources, and inspiration illustrated through beautiful photography. The photographer who took the majority by far of the photographs is Adam Kuehl. And we have worked together all of our adult lives. We've worked together at SCAD. We worked together since then. And he's so talented and he has shot pretty much everything I've ever created. And Adam has a great sense of humor. He's incredibly talented. He's a master of light, but he also, that makes him sound like sort of a witch. He might, a sorcerer. He might like that too. But what I like most about his work is that he had free reins at a lot of these parties to capture wacky little moments, documentary style. And so I think that the photos, there are plenty of beautiful tablescapes in the book, but there are also a lot of moments that aren't often captured, like, say, on a shot list for a wedding photographer. Whether it's like someone devouring a heart-shaped pizza at 3 a.m. or the way that the arbor with the 65 round tables looks once people have left, taken off their dinner jackets to, dance their ass off.
I don't know how much of this is plays into the book itself, but even in the execution and design of the event, what role do you see storytelling playing?
Oh, I mean, that's my whole job. I mean, I can be a designer, I can be like a army general with logistics, I can be a dreamer with decor, I can be a therapist with a bride. I'm a fireman, literally sometimes with too many candles, but also with putting out problems. I'm a diplomat, but first and foremost, I'm a storyteller.
I'm jumping all over the place, don't mind me.
Yeah,
But
I love it.
one of the things, when we were talking and you said the book launches in September, which September 2nd, at the time of the airing of this episode, it will likely have just launched. And we'll put links and all the things so people can go grab it.
Thank you.
But one of the things that I was immediately thinking about was this is getting into people's hands right at the beginning of when they're starting to, well, when a regular person, I feel like those in events think about the
Those who aren't
holidays
about to have a
like,
baby, is that what you were going to say?
no, those who think about events like all the time. I feel like you're always like, and you're already like on next year, but the layperson is starting to think about the holidays like come September. So this is good timing. It's a season of gathering is where I'm going with this. And so I feel like the inspiration is well timed. And I wanted to kind of talk to you a little bit about just like your own philosophy or things that you might tell people, whether or not they entertain routinely or not, if they consider themselves a hostess. I'm always a big proponent of encouraging people, even if it's small scale, to just gather, get
Hmm.
together.
Hmm.
So, do you have advice or things that you hope people glean from reading the book and going through the book?
I think a lot of people are intimidated by entertaining.
Hmm.
And I also think that a lot of people do not like to entertain in their house. I mean, my book, again, is not a DIY book,
Right.
but I hope that there will be so many wacky ideas in the book that it will make people excited to figure it out. And I think my best advice is that you don't have to make it happen. And if you have a teeny apartment, don't try to have a seated dinner for 10. Have cocktails and put champagne in your bathtub and cheese straws on the coffee table and come one, come all and pretend like you're Holly Golightly.
Hmm.
If your house isn't finished or have a gaggle of children destroying everything, go to a restaurant and have a party at a restaurant. There are plenty of restaurants that have private rooms. So I've had parties in Soho at a pasta shop. I've had parties in Houston at the diviest Chinese food places you can imagine. I've had parties at fancy restaurants. I've had parties at dive bars. I've had parties on school buses with the top cut off, so it's like a convertible that drive through Times Square and serve Runart champagne and toasted pecans. I mean, just have a party, just gather and make sure that it's fun. But your house does not have to be perfect. Your house doesn't have to be huge. It doesn't even have to be at your house. But the act of gathering, I think, is so important because I truly believe that if you don't mark occasions with a celebration, that in retrospect, life can be a bunch of beige.
You touched on wacky, and I want to talk about that for a second. Like your brand and the shop is your vision. I wanted to hear a little bit more about your personal inspirations and things that it's like wacky in the best possible way. What's inspiring you and giving you the ideas to step outside the box?
I'm so lucky to be surrounded by so many creative people. And my team is wildly creative and hysterical and resourceful and versatile. I watch old movies. I read, I say read. I feel like what is it called? On Vanity Fair where they interview the people and they can tell if they're lying or not. When you're like being investigated for a murder. I don't really read. I flip through old
Peruse.
cookbooks,
You
design
peruse.
books.
Mhm.
Yes. Right, right. Cookbooks, design books. I mean, I'm looking at a book right now called The House Party, which is about English country houses and how they entertained between the two wars, how to entertain at home circa 1947, the banquet years, which is about the medieval period of entertaining, the aesthetics of the Greek banquet. I mean, I'm constantly looking at things like that. I love to travel. That's such an expected answer, but it really is true. Like, nothing is better for coming up with new ideas. I was recently in Madrid, and there's that famous market there that's so insane, and all the fruit is perfectly piled in pyramids. Like, I'd love to meet the person that does that every morning with perfect squares of red waxy tissue between each Valencia orange, all these teeny little contraptions for bites. You know, like we have those nasty specimen cups, like the same thing that you tinkle in at the doctor's office is what we like give people bites of at grocery stores with plastic spoons. They have these beautiful bamboo boats with teeny little two-pronged forks for people to taste things in the market. And that inspired an idea to do a dinner party. It was a party that I held in Savannah at a fruit market, a produce market with the tables between, all the big watermelons. But I think traveling's hugely inspiring. And I also grew up surrounded by women that were hugely creative and talented, and it was all about the next party.
Okay, I'm glad you just brought that up because I forgot to ask earlier if entertaining and hosting was part of your upbringing.
Oh, absolutely. I had a mother or have a mother that is wildly creative. She makes amazing cakes, like beautiful. That's really her what she brings to the party. She takes the cake, so to speak. And she was a great enabler in my greedy pursuit of the next birthday party. I had a seventh birthday that was fashioned as a runway show down the sidewalk of our house in South Texas, and I was the bride at the end in white polyester. And she tapped a local TV station, sort of glamazon with big gold coin earrings and, South Texas teased and sprayed hair. And she emceed the whole thing and described all of my friends' costumes as they walked down the runway, aka driveway. One year I couldn't decide on a theme, so it was like pink and green, pig and frog, barbecue ice cream, relay race competition, kitchen sink. My mom liked to have open houses where it was a cocktail buffet, things like cold beef tenderloin and angel biscuits and, cocktail food where you could have a small plate and perch. My grandmother entertained in a much more formal way and had beautiful linens and labeled drawers, and the silver was always polished, and she had a giant 1950s ranch style house with a kitchen that, I mean, in my child's mind feels as big as a football field, with a huge island with neon, well, not neon, but pretty bright turquoise formica countertops. And she was always making something. And I have all of her pans and piping tools and, pastry implements. And that was a huge labor of love. And everything was always ready, always starched, always polished and ready for a party. And it's something that I really appreciated as an adult, not as a child, that she went to all of that effort, even just for family, probably knowing that it would take me, 30 years to really appreciate it.
But it's almost like the instilling it young. I think something about that that does kind of set us up for carrying tradition forward that way. Because I don't know if people always look at it as tradition, but like you kind of are, like you've made a career out of the tradition you grew up with, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
I am a quotation of my ancestors. I mean, needless to say, like, I didn't know that I would make my career out of something that maybe I didn't even recognize in my childhood. But I mean, I never had a cocktail with a paper napkin or a piece of sliced bread out of a plastic bag, and I never had a birthday party at a ball pit, you know?
I
And
love
that
that.
takes a lot of effort, you know?
It does. Yeah.
But like meeting of my grandmother and my mother's.
On that note, though, because that is sort of a more traditional, I don't want to call it formal. I think traditional is maybe like the word to use. Also, probably they just valued the quality. How do you, when you're creating your events in particular, how are you balancing the polish with the spontaneity?
We have very detailed run of shows as if we're like going to war, you know, with
Yeah.
this party. And I look at the timeline, and every 30 minutes, I am sure to have something happen.
Hmm.
So the polish, I think, is by nature of the fact that you're asking people to show up and dress up. And there is a obligation as a guest to be charming and to dance when the lights go down and to compliment the food and to talk to the people at your table. I mean, you do have a job as a guest. You have to bring something to the table, so to speak. And so the polish is necessary to honor that exchange. I mean, I'm assuming you mean polish like having nice wine and making sure that dinner is delicious and served on time and those sorts
Hmm.
of things. And then as far as the surprise, I plan that. There is no surprise in the surprise, you know?
Yeah.
Someone that inspires me continuously who passed away a few years ago was Julia Reed, who was
Mm.
the beloved writer and also entertainer and also New York Times food editor and cookbook writer and really just all around amazing woman. And one of her mottos was I think it was functioning in disaster, but ending in style.
So, of course, we've talked a little bit about weddings and like really large scale events, but you've also touched on some smaller things and how you have personally hosted smaller events, but it sounds like social events are also part of your company's repertoire. So, could we talk a little bit more about, for those who might be interested in actually working with you,
Yeah.
your menu, so to speak?
Houses and Parties creates events on all scales for all different kinds of occasions and all different kinds of clients. We do small dinners for fashion brands, we do big dinners for huge anniversaries, we do weddings. There is no party from, you know, I would say 50 people to 1,200 people that we don't do. We also do interior design. And housesandparties.com, which is our online shop, offers all sorts of entertainments, be it a party hat or party crackers, to punctuate your own events with things that I hope you haven't seen anywhere else because we make them.
I was about to say, so, because we were talking about kind of like whimsy and kind of the unexpected surprise, right? I think sometimes that can intimidate people too. Like they put a lot of pressure on themselves if they're not, I think most people are creative, but I think people don't always know how to tap into it. If you are someone who is interested in hosting or does host or wants to entertain and wants to have that unexpected surprise, but is panicky about trying to come up with it, your shop will make it easy because
Right.
they can find something that resonates with them. They can find decor, they can find party material, like supplies. They can find those little unexpected elements. Some are more refined, some are the little hysterical piece you need on the bar cart. If people are feeling intimidated about that wow factor, like your shop can take that pressure off of them.
Well, I'm
Um,
big on parlor games and I'm big on entertainments. I wanted to have a shop that was fun to scroll through. I mean, that was
mhm.
a huge part of it, which maybe is not the most business-minded approach, but I wanted it to be exciting to scroll through the shop. And so you can buy everything from like Puy sterling silver and beautiful glassware and Portuguese linens to silly things that are simply icebreakers.
Mhm.
And so I hope that it's for everybody. It's for every joy seeker personally.
I want to make sure we talk about all the different ways people can find you. We have housesandparties.com. We're on Instagram. And then I don't know that we actually addressed the title of your book.
It's called a screaming blast.
Love it. So we will make sure to link to that. Like I said, by the time the episode airs, it will have just launched, so people will be able to grab it.
If you buy it through my shop, you get a sheet of ostentatious sticker jewelry and a signed copy.
Awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time today.
I'm excited for you having this baby, and I hope you'll stay in touch.
For sure. Yeah.
Thank you.